Most people are unaware of this. Our tone of voice, our faces, they communicate before we communicate. We're reading each other without really recognizing that we are.
Moms with a lot of Botox, what happens when they have young children?
There's a study where there were babies and the mom was instructed to have a flat, no facial expression. And the impact was drastic. And it was a long-term impact, which is why they don't do studies like this that way anymore. Is it going to happen now? Is it going to happen when I ask this? Is it going to happen when I do that? I don't know. That is why it is crucial as a parent that we spend more time focusing on how we repair than how not to rupture. The tone in your husband's voice suddenly switches from safety to danger. Your kid asking you the same question they ask you every morning suddenly feels irritating and not peaceful. That is a nervous system response. The explosion of what we call autoimmune issues here in the US is highly correlated with people who essentially have run out of this sympathetic activating energy. Their body can't handle it anymore and we're shutting down.
Who are you and your background and why are you here?
I got interested in psychology because I've always been fascinated at what makes human beings tick, right? Why do we do the things we do? And why do we think the things we think? And how do we change when we're not happy? Those kinds of things. Probably no surprise, I went through my own difficult upbringing and some trauma in my life, which just, it really deepens my curiosity for how people behave the way that they behave. So I got when I say classically trained in clinical psychology, I think traditionally psychology, well, it's gone through varying iterations, but, when I was going through my graduate school training, oh my gosh, I'm going to date myself, over 20 years ago now, there wasn't the explosion in the field of neuroscience like there is today, or, nervous system work, or what we call, psychoneuroimmunology, in these really cool fields, because science hadn't caught up yet with what it was exploring. And so I went through pretty traditional clinical psychology training. However, it left me with some holes or some things that just felt unfinished. And so while I'm incredibly grateful for my background and training, and it set me up in a really foundational way, I was still searching. I was curious. I was, what else is happening here? And the reason for that is because my clients would get better. I'll call it about 80% better. And that felt good, but I wanted them to transform. I wanted there to be this, okay, I have become a different person and I can face life's challenges in a completely different way now. I can face whatever's coming to me. I'm able to overcome obstacles, right? And at first I felt like maybe that was a unrealistic kind of Pollyanna idea, right? But something kept nagging at me. There's something more. So I'll fast forward and say, as I got trained and, certifications and all the things, all about that, right? All the certifications and things that led me to deeper levels of healing. One of the things that changed my life was being trained and mentored in the nervous system and the interplay between sort of brain science, cognitive neuroscience, and psychology. And it changed my life. It changed my clients' lives. And I felt like I finally found, I'm going to say, a structured path, a structured way to help people understand why it's so hard to change, how to overcome that, how to move forward. And it was kind of like rinse and repeat, or Lego, Lego pieces, puzzle pieces. Oh, here's a piece of the puzzle, put it together, and now we've got the whole picture. So it was a life-changing experience for me, and now my work is all centered around cognitive neuroscience and the nervous system.
Wow, and that's so interesting. And I'm curious about your story, Eliza. So how was it when you discovered this, and what did it change for you working with the nervous system?
Oh my gosh, yes. Okay, so the nervous system can be, I think it can sound complex because there's words and physiology and biology involved, but it changed my life on an everyday basis. every single day basis. I'll just give you an example. For example, this morning, this is it's just a Wednesday, a normal Wednesday. And I was running a little bit late from the gym this morning. We have our time together. I know what time our time was scheduled for. And my daughter was getting ready for school. And I was running a little bit late. And so because I was running a little bit late, to my nervous system, that sort of energy of, oh my gosh, I'm running late that we've all felt, to the nervous system, that is interpreted as danger. It's interpreted as, oh my gosh, there's something, something dangerous. And when the nervous system interprets our cues like that, it changes everything about who we are. It changes the way we hear tones and sounds. It changes the way we see people and colors. It changes the way we speak. It changes everything. And so this morning, because I was running a little bit late and my nervous system was a little bit activated, when my daughter was asking me the same questions she would ask me every day, because my system is in an activated state, I have less patience. I'm responding differently. I can hear the tone of my voice start to come out of my mouth differently, right? But because I'm so aware of this, and because I know my states and I know my system, I'm able to recognize what's going on. I'm able to use my tools to pull myself back and respond to her the way that I want to respond to her, rather than letting my nervous system run the show, right? And that's just one example on a Wednesday morning when I'm just running a little bit late for an appointment I have. Can you imagine how many times a day something like that plays out? And if you're unaware of it, the way that you are moving through your life is significantly altered by this unconscious, biology that's going on without our awareness. So that's just one example. This changed the way I do work, relationships, parenting, everything in my life changed.
Wow. And okay, there's so many things here that are interesting. And I'm just like, okay, so I'm picturing you with your daughter, and you know this as well. How we act and how we, our words, our energy really influences everyone around us.
Yes.
And especially our kids.
Especially our kids.
And I mean, we want our kids to be resilient, have good self-esteem, and all that. And if we as parents, which we do sometimes, it is normal. Everyone can snap and say things they don't want to. And when we learn to regulate our nervous system, like you are training people to do, we can respond, as you say, in a calmer manner, in a way that is more, constructive. Because even, kids will unconsciously pick up on everything. And if your tone of voice is a little bit, I told you that yesterday and you should have, why didn't you do that? Just like, it doesn't have to be like really harsh, or it doesn't have to be like you're yelling at your kid, but just like the small nuances. Their unconscious mind will pick that up and it will interpret it. And so I'm throwing this at you, Eliza. So how would a kid's mind interpret an adult, a mom or dad who's just like, oh, I told you that. Why aren't you ready? And blah, blah. How would they interpret that?
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Yes. This is the world that I'm obsessed with, because I think, I was saying earlier that this type of work changes the world, and this is why I get so excited about it, because exactly what you're talking about got me so excited when I first got trained in it and learned about it. So like you're saying, our kids, because they come out of the womb blank slates, we all do. We all come out of the womb kind of blank slates. I mean, there are some people who talk about past lives, what we carry with us, all of that. I'm here for it. But from a physiology perspective, we all come out blank slates. And immediately from the moment we come out of the womb, the nervous system, through a process, technically it's called neuroception, is feeling its way through its environment. And what I mean by that is it's responding to every single signal inside the child's body, outside in the environment, and then what you're talking about, most importantly, between nervous system to nervous system. So let's just put it in the context of the mother, let's say. The baby comes out of the womb, and before the child can put any words pre-verbally, their nervous system is communicating with your nervous system, and it is picking up on what it feels like. Does this feel good? Does this not feel so good? Does this feel safe? Does this not feel so safe? And it's doing that constantly, every moment of every day. Okay, so fast forward. Child is learning these cues about what it feels like to be in the environment. And the most fascinating piece is the child is not responding to what you are saying, because at that point the baby is a baby, right? Unbeknownst to us, what they're responding to, what their nervous system is picking up on, is your tone of voice, the cranial nerves around your eye, so like the space around your eyes that shifts and changes based on your energy, on how you're feeling. They're picking up on what happens to your mouth. So everything that the child is picking up on are these non-verbal cues of how it feels like to be in your presence. And so one of the most difficult things for a child all the way through, and all of us even, is when someone's tone of voice does not match their words. So if and there's studies done on this, experiments, all kinds of things, but if a mother's words are saying I love you, but the tone is flat, the eyes are frowning, she's crying, it's very confusing for a child's nervous system. And so we'll fast forward to this morning with my daughter. And then I want to make sure I say one really cool piece about this. Fast forward this morning to my daughter. If on a day where I am not rushed and my nervous system is not in activation, and she comes and asks me the same question, if I would normally respond, oh, of course, honey, I'll be right there. But today, because I'm in activation, because I'm rushed and I'm late for my podcast, I respond, why can't you just do it yourself? It's very confusing for the child because they learn expectations of the questions they're going to ask and how we're going to respond. They learn through the co-regulation in our nervous system, who is mom, and how does she move through the morning and all of this stuff. And because I know that dysregulation is happening in my nervous system, well, I might actually snap at her in a way that I don't want to, but this is the cool part. In the research, what is so abundantly clear, and I hope all mothers, all parents out there can hear this piece. What is so much more important than me not snapping at her is what's called repair. So rupture happens all the time, and it's okay. The thing that is so much more powerful and so much more important to the relationship is the repair. So if I do snap at her, she knows, because we've created this safety in our household, she knows if I do snap at her, it's very, very likely that I'm going to come back and say, honey, I'm so sorry. I was running late this morning and it was not okay for me to snap at you like that. I love you. You doing okay? Just like that. The repair is so much more powerful. But the important piece here is that she didn't do anything by asking me a question that she always asks me. It's my nervous system responding to the environment. And the reason I'm so passionate about this is that if we can start to learn, if all humans could start to learn, become aware of their own nervous system and how their nervous system responds to the environment all day long, and how that changes them as a human being and who they show up as, then I truly believe, and it might be naive, that so much conflict and so much dis-ease and unrest in our households, in our work environments, in our relationships, in our political climates would all improve, let's put it that way, improve if we just learn to live what I call state first living, from our nervous system first, and then go out in the world and utilize rupture and repair.
I so agree. I don't think that is naive, Eliza.
Good.
True. I agree with you. And so I'm curious, Could you go into the reason? Like, I'm sure the listeners are curious to know, like, okay, because we have all snapped at our kids. And, as parents, it's not always that easy to
Yeah.
say, I'm sorry, and like admit that we're not perfect.
Yes.
So, why is the repair more important or more powerful than, or it can outweigh the snapping? Can you get
Yeah.
into that?
Yes, absolutely. So, it's more important. Well, it's more important and more powerful for a couple of reasons. Number one, it teaches children how to still be safe within conflict. So, if we don't have the repair, then you have the snapping, which to the child feels like a rupture. It feels like, oh my gosh, that feels, I'm going to use the words unsafe, but what I mean is unsafe in the perspective of the nervous system. The nervous system goes, ooh, that didn't feel good. That feels unsafe. And if we don't repair it, then it leaves the child out there going, oh my gosh, I don't know when this feeling of unsafe is going to come again. And the child starts to learn, we call it hypervigilance, but essentially the child starts to learn, I don't know when this is going to happen again. And when it does happen, it feels really bad. And so I'm going to start to, now I'm unsafe. Now I'm in my activated nervous system constantly looking and being aware for danger. Is it going to happen now? Is it going to happen when I ask this? Is it going to happen when I do that? I don't know. That is why it is crucial, imperative as a parent that we spend more time focusing on how we repair than how not to rupture. Because if we don't learn how to repair, then the child is left out there going, I don't know when to expect this from mom, and it doesn't feel good when it happens. If we do repair, then what it teaches the child is, ooh, that still didn't feel so good, but I'm still safe because I know that we're going to feel good again. And I don't have to now live my life out there worrying about whether or not there's going to be rupture without the repair. That is priority number one, is why we need to learn how to do that. And then also some people might think, yeah, but the rupture feels terrible. Isn't that worse? Well, the other thing it teaches kids is it's okay to have conflict in a relationship, not just within my household, but in general, that I can both have feelings of discomfort and then experience feelings of safety. I have the ability to hold both. Maybe not at the same time, and we don't have to hold them at the same time, but it's a skill that I can learn in my life, that just because something's uncomfortable doesn't mean that I am unsafe. And so, it's just so important that we learn how to rupture. And you're right. What's interesting about what you said about repair, and that it's not that simple for parents to learn how to do that. But think about what we're modeling for our kids. If I can't, as a mother, say I'm sorry and I messed up, then what does that teach my child about how they have to be in the world? Is it okay for them to mess up? Is it okay if they snap at their friends? Is it okay if, So in order to teach my child the skill of being safe in vulnerability, because it's really vulnerable to tell someone that you've messed up, right? If I want them to feel safe in that vulnerability, I got to do it myself, right? So it is. I just think it's one of the most important gifts we can give ourselves, our children, our partners, our spouses, everybody.
Wow. I'm so glad you said that about the repair, because I know a lot of parents feel guilty for snapping at their kids, and then they think that, I ruined everything.
Yeah.
And there's so much power in the repair. I love that.
I've heard from so many people who get so worried about, the ways that I've snapped at my kids, or oh my gosh, I wish I hadn't yelled them, or all these things, because we carry these wounds, and we're all going to snap at our kids. None of us are perfect. But I think there's such a relief in knowing it's actually never too late to repair, no matter what the relationship looks like. Because especially with a parent-child relationship, there is, it's this neurological bond. A child will always be looking for and want safety from their primary caregiver, no matter whether we're 4 months old or 68 years old. It's a wiring. We call it a biological imperative. It's a wiring. And so if we can remember that and say, I'm actually just thinking of a client I was working through this with the other day. She's in her 60s and she's got a grown daughter, and daughter has children, and they're having, some difficulty. And because it was so uncomfortable for her, my client, to hear some of the wounds, some of the hurts, that her daughter had experienced before she knew better, when she was raising her, it was difficult for her to feel vulnerable, safe enough to say that she was sorry, or that, or even just, I see you and I recognize you, because it was really vulnerable. I mean, we talked through this about how no matter how old her daughter is, there is this biological desire for connection to your caretaker. I think she was able to go, okay, I can take a deep breath and say, the thing that's making me want to fight this is because of my nervous system, fear of being vulnerable in this moment. And if I can focus on the connection with her and safety and vulnerability, and she was able to get to this place where it was tender, it was vulnerable, it was hard, but that's where the connection is created.
Wow, beautiful. And vulnerability. Aren't we all afraid of being vulnerable?
I mean, yes, yes, blanket
Yes.
statement, yes, where it's scary to be vulnerable. It feels scary to be vulnerable.
It does. Okay, let's get into that a bit more. And there's another question. It's a little bit on the side where you're
Yeah.
talking about how, the muscles around the eyes. And I'm thinking, okay, moms with a lot of Botox, what happens when they have young children?
I mean, it's a good question, and I think we don't even know this. Most people are unaware of this, but our faces, our tone of voice, our faces, they communicate before we communicate. Our nervous system to nervous system, we're reading each other without really recognizing that we are. And the facial muscles around the eyes is one of the first things that we read when we see someone else. So the crow's feet, how people have crow's feet after time, and they, there's a lot of women who get these wrinkles or these creases around their eyes. And for me, I think they're beautiful. They're a sign of
Yeah.
how often we smile and how often because we get them because we smile and we're expressive. And to another nervous system, it signals safety to see those crow's feet. Crow's feet are one of the most powerful signals of safety to another nervous system. So to answer your question, if we're erasing those, then unbeknownst to us, we are putting up I don't want to say barrier, but people have to go one step further to experience that safety with us, versus if we come as we are and people can read that expression of safety on our face. Because if you think of it a different way, and you can try it, anybody can try it. Try to, if you think a negative emotion, I'm angry or I'm hurting or depressed or something, and try to put that emotion in your eyes. And then it'll bring your without knowing it, it'll bring sort of parts of your face down, and it'll change the shape of it. So if you keep that emotion and then try and smile at somebody and say, "Hi, it's really good to see you." You might not be able to see it, but there's a mismatch in your nervous system when you go, "Oh, I hear what you're saying. It's really good to see me," but my body feels like, "Oh, maybe not." My body is recoiling because it's reading your face, not the words that you're saying. And so it's a very long-winded way of saying it has an impact when we change our facial structure.
Yeah.
Biologically, we were designed this way, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. So, and I think this is so interesting. And I don't think people are aware of it. I don't think they understand.
Mm.
And like, for example, a little child who is sad, just picture a
Yeah.
child who's sad and comes to, like, little girl comes to her mom, and her mom, is supposed to lean in and go, oh, I really feel you. And
Yes.
the face should express, I feel you. And if the
Yes.
facial muscles don't move, what happens?
Yes. Yes. Well, I mean, there are studies about this. It's been a while because the studies are really powerful. We didn't even I don't think, even think we knew how powerful it was. But there's a study of children where they were babies, and it was studying the mother and the infant, and the mom was instructed to have a flat, no facial expression. The affect was meant to be cold and unfeeling, and the impact that it had, and they were studying the impact on the infant of the mother who was allowed to do exactly what you were saying, which is our usually normal instinct, unless the mother's nervous system is dysregulated, right? But the impact was drastic on the infant, and it was a long-term impact, which is why they don't do studies like this that way anymore, because it lasted beyond just the study. And especially for mothers who are actually suffering and struggling and things, the impact that it has on the infant, because their neural wiring as an infant, like I said, they're learning about the world. Is it safe? Is it unsafe to be in the world? And when a child's nervous system gets confused like that, oh my gosh, this caretaker is, I'm hurting, and she's not responding to me. What we call, it tunes them. It tunes their nervous system to danger, to a lack of connection. This is what leads to attachment issues. This is what leads to, disruptive behavior. There's all kinds of things. So nervous system to nervous system communication is vitally important. And you're right, not enough people understand that it's even happening. And we're also taught that it's all about what we say, right? Tell your child this, or speak, say these words. And I chuckle because our nervous system reads so many other cues beyond the words that we're saying. Facial expressions, we talked about that. Tone of voice, right? Our nervous system is picking up on all of the nonverbals, all the things we're not saying, and the words that we're saying last. In fact, side note, I'll tell you, in my own relationship, this is one of the things that changed my marriage a lot, was when my husband and I were working through, because my nervous system was shaped in trauma. And so when his tone of voice does not match the words that he's saying, it's still really difficult for me. It's confusing for my nervous system. I'm overly tuned to sensitivity in people's words matching their tone of voice and facial expressions. I'm very sensitive to it, right? And I acknowledge that, and we've discussed that this is my sensitivity. I was tuned this way, and this is how it impacts me. And so we used to spend time just in one of the typical marital fights of, he would say something, I would pick up the irritation in his tone of voice, and I kept trying to push to get it out of him. But what's wrong? What's wrong? And because he didn't realize that his nervous system was dysregulated and that was coming through in his tone of voice, he kept saying, nothing, leave it alone, nothing, leave it alone. And he would just get more animated and I would just get more activated, right? But when we started to speak the language of the nervous system, and he could understand, he's not doing anything wrong, I'm not doing anything wrong. This is just how our nervous systems were trained and interact with each other. I think it gives people it's like a shared language that the blame is gone away. It's not about what he did, what I did. It's about, hey, this is nervous system to nervous system, and this is the impact it has. What should we do about this as a team? And we still, we still have these moments of rupture, but repair is so much easier and safer. And we do it so much more quickly because this is not about blame or someone's fault or, trying to fix the other person. It's actually taking ownership of our own nervous system, how it expresses, how it responds. And I think it takes it out of the realm of someone being personally responsible, and it allows for more safety, vulnerability, and connection.
Change isn't linear. It's a process and you learn every day. I've created an audio file that reprograms your subconscious mind to fall asleep faster and stay asleep and go through all of the sleep cycles you need to go through throughout the night. Just click the link below and you can download it so that you get that extra little help and can get into really good sleeping habits. So powerful. And okay, so my listeners here, they know a lot about the nervous system and stress. And I think still it would be useful to really just do the 101 for dummies, like the nervous system. How do we know if it's dysregulated?
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Oh my
what
God.
is it? And yeah, so yeah, just dig into that, please.
Okay, let's do the 101. Because, even when I was getting trained in the nervous system, I thought, man, I think I heard about this in my biology class in high school or something, but I don't really know what we're talking about here. So to make it really relatable, technically your nervous system is made up of your brain, your spinal cord, and then all the network and bundle of nerves that run throughout your entire body connected to those things. So brain, spinal cord, and all of the nerve endings. And those nerve endings run throughout every cell, every part of your body. So it's all connected, right? But when we're talking about the nervous system from the physiology, we're saying brain, spinal cord, and that network of nerves. Okay, great. Well, what do? They're communicating. Their job is to communicate consistently all day, every day, micro moment to micro. This never turns off, right? That's the thing that's important to understand. And what are they communicating? It's communicating signals, messages of safety or danger. That's an oversimplification of it, but the nervous system's job is to keep us alive. And so I kind of think of it like an information superhighway, and it's constantly sending signals, brain, spinal cord, network of nerves all day long, running signals up and down this information superhighway to say, does this feel safe? Does this feel dangerous? Does this feel safe? Does this feel dangerous? All day long. And when I say it's looking for signals, I'm talking everything from the temperature outside, the look on your partner's face, the email you just received. Is there a weather pattern coming? What's happening in the country you live in? Is there actual danger? Are you going to get hit by a bus? Everything, literally everything in your environment. Do you like the color somebody's wearing? It's constantly sending signals. And you asked, okay, well, how do I know if I'm dysregulated? Well, those signals are for the purpose of keeping us alive. And so it's constantly making calculations. And the easiest way to think about this is, does it feel good or bad? It's kind of an oversimplification of it, but I think it's the easiest way to think about it. Does it feel good or bad? If it feels good or even neutral, then we can be pretty sure that we are in our, we'll call it safe and connected state. And this will become important here in just a second, but safe and connected state. If it feels bad in any way, so me running late this morning by a couple of minutes felt bad. It's not a huge deal. We're not talking big trauma here, but it felt bad. If it feels bad, then that's our signal. That's our cue that our nervous system has likely moved into a state of protection. And the reason that distinction is so important, and I'll talk about the two states of protection here in just a second, but the reason that distinction is so drastically important is because as soon as the nervous system has moved over into a state of protection, how do we know if we're in a state of protection? If it feels bad, a couple of really important things happen. A lot of really important things happen. But your entire body switches off from going with the flow mode, just moving through life mode, and switches on to protection mode. And this affects every single system in your body, your digestive system, your cardiovascular system, your musculoskeletal system, literally every single system, everything in your body now gets diverted to attend to possible danger, possible stress, the thing that doesn't feel good in your environment. And where it's most impactful for us day to day is that it switches off your executive functioning skills. So the way you think, the way you talk, the way you hear people, problem solving, creativity, all those things, it switches from, okay, great, to nope, protection. So the tone in your husband's voice suddenly switches from safety to danger. The look on a stranger's face suddenly switches from safety to danger. Your kid asking you the same question they ask you every morning suddenly feels irritating and not peaceful. That is a nervous system response. And so it's imperative to recognize when we have switched over from safety into danger. And so the one last piece, and again, this is a drastic oversimplification because I hope that people just, take away these main points. But the one last piece of it is that there's two important states of danger. Their first is what most people know as the stress response, this activation, this stress, this, agitation and waiting for the other shoe to drop, and it's irritation, and we're agitated and we're anxious. All of that, you can hear there's a lot of energy in that system. I got to fight. I got to flee. This is the fight or flight system that most people are familiar with, right? The sympathetic system. But there's also another system of danger, and it's really important that people understand from the perspective of evolution. If we were met with a real threat, let's call it a lion on the safari, right? A lion on the tundra, whatever. If we were met with that threat, our body would go into fight or flight, activation, try to get away from the tiger, lion. Are we a tiger or a lion? I think we're a lion. Try to get away from the lion. And the body would use all of its resources to either run or fight. But there's a certain point then when the body would realize either I'm going to be successful with this and I'm going to keep fighting, or if I'm not going to be successful, if that lion is going to get me, then the other protective state our body has is the shutdown state. And that is when we have run out of our sympathetic energy, or we're about to run out of our sympathetic energy, and the body will shut us down. It will shut us down by dissociating from the experience, taking us out emotionally of the environment. It will shut us down by immobilizing our energy. Our muscles will go limp. If people who faint when they have high fear, their body, that's a visual representation of just shut down. The body just, it shuts everything down. And number 3, it does that to conserve any energy it has left. Now, this is really important because more and more I see people running at a sympathetic state, and they feel like I should just be able to run at this state of high energy, high alert, high alert, high alert. And then what happens? They'll get sick, autoimmune issues, chronic fatigue, digestion issues, lupus, you name it. There's the explosion of what we call autoimmune issues here in the US. It's highly correlated with people who essentially have run out of this sympathetic activating energy. Their body can't handle it anymore, and we're shutting down. And that's sort of like a metaphor for humanity right now, I think, is that we're running out of this sympathetic energy, and we have 2 choices. We either learn how to, do all the work that you do with people and that I do with people to help them get back into this safe and regulated place and live from there, or it's going to shut us down. Those are our choices, right?
Yeah, wow. Thank you so much, Eliza. And I think this makes a lot of sense to people. And people like my listeners, they know about the stress response and everything. And it's just like you can know it and you can really know it.
Yes.
Really understand it. And, also here in Norway, we are seeing so many autoimmune diseases, chronic fatigue. There is a lot, and it's increasing. And, in the society that we live in, there are things which can dysregulate or create a dysregulated nervous system, like wherever we turn. From the second we
Absolutely.
wake up,
Yes.
phones are pinging, and there's so much information, stimulation,
Yes.
and I was talking to you before we press record. Like, I'm normally really good at managing my stress levels, take a lot of time off, sleep, meditate, do yoga nidras, everything. And lately, the last month, I realized that because I have upped the level of my work and the things I do, that that creates, more stress for the nervous system. Although they feel fun and easy
Yeah.
and flowy,
Yeah.
it is more. And I just realized that, okay, even though I've been doing so much good stuff, like I was at a point where I realized that I had to hone down even more on my daily routines, take
Yeah.
even more time off, going for a walk with the dog. I don't listen to a podcast. I
Mm,
do still listen to
so
podcasts
good.
and
Yeah.
audiobooks, just
Yeah.
like not all the time,
Yes.
like really giving my head
Yes.
peace and my body just like rest in different ways. And I
Yes.
think like even like there are different levels of understanding that what stress is, and you can still like you don't always notice that you're dysregulated.
Yeah.
Although yes, I agree that you'll feel irritated and those things, and sometimes it's just like something sneaking up from
Yes.
behind, and
Yeah.
it's so sneaky you
So
don't realize it.
yes. It's so
So I
true.
think like, yeah, I think we need reminders all the time. And what you were just explaining about the nervous system, I think we just need those reminders all the time because the society we live in is like, there's so much stuff that can stress us, unconsciously every day, every
Oh
second.
my gosh. It's so true. And I think to your point, it's sneaky and it's pervasive. It's everywhere. And one of my favorite sort of concepts to teach people is to think of the nervous system like a bank account balance. And that every single day, just like a bank account balance, there are, deposits that go into the bank account, and then there's withdrawals that come out of the bank account. And anybody who has a financial bank account, no matter where we are in the world, you sort of know that we got to manage our financial bank account because of what happens when we get close to being empty or overdraft, right? We can feel it emotionally. And I think that's the importance of it is you may not always know exactly what your bank account balance is, but you sort of know throughout your day, that if you're at overdraft or you're moving towards overdraft, that impacts every aspect of your day, right? And so just like a financial bank account, our nervous system bank account also works on deposits and withdrawals. And just like you were talking about, the things that you're doing light you up, you're excited about them, but they still take energy from you. They still take something from you. So in that way, there's still a withdrawal. And the way that you were talking about it is that the way you're putting deposits in is by taking things off your plate, not just filling it with more and more and push through. And it's why I like to teach people this analogy of deposits and withdrawals, because only you know if something is a deposit or if something is a withdrawal. And actually, on Monday, it might feel like a deposit. And on Tuesday, it might feel like a withdrawal. And so rather than looking at how to manage our nervous system by having a collection of tools, right? Because you rattled some off and amazing, and they work for you, and that's fantastic. But walking with a podcast on a Monday might feel like a deposit. Oh yeah, this is so great. But walking with a podcast on a Wednesday, if you've got, other things on your plate, might feel like a withdrawal. And so we have to focus less on the actual tool we're using and more on balancing of that nervous system bank account, so that when we do it that way, it opens a door for more flexibility and to be, it's not like, oh, this tool has to work. I'm dysregulated. I have to use this tool. It's actually more like, well, what feels like a deposit for my nervous system today versus what feels like a withdrawal.
Oh, yeah, that is so true. And it is really, it changes from day to day. And so Eliza, so in order to get better at this, we need to be able to feel what's going on the inside, right?
Mm. Well, yes. Yes. Yes, there is that. And actually, yes, we do. But I think what's so cool about learning how to do nervous system work differently, because actually you're hitting on something. I think a lot of people don't always know what they're feeling or what they're experiencing, but there are so many ways to make connections about what's going on in your nervous system beyond having to name it with words. And actually, one of the most powerful things, we do this with kids a lot, is they can use colors, drawing, music, associations, places, superheroes, people you know in your life, words if you want to, physical experiences, meaning like, where do I feel it in my body? There's all different ways to bring that association with, for example, when I'm in activation, the question is, how do I know? How do I know I'm there? Well, if it's just limited to words, then people sometimes get stuck. But we can go beyond that. We can go, does it have a color? Does it have a temperature? Does it have an essence? Does it remind you of a place or a person or a relationship you had or a movie you watched? Do you feel it anywhere in your body? And so there's all kinds of different ways that people go, oh, yeah. So we've heard the expression nails on a chalkboard, right? Have you heard the expression nails on a
Oh,
chalkboard?
yes.
And you just know what that means, right? And that's the
Yeah.
whole thing about learning nervous system work in the way that I love to do it, is because you don't have to name your feeling. You could go nails on a chalkboard, that, right? Or you could go that itchy wool sweater, that, right? And as long as you know what that feels like, now you're associating it with your nervous system state, right?
Yeah, wow. Eliza, it's so interesting to talk to you. I'm aware of the time, and I think we have to bring you back on the podcast before we sort of go off to our other chores today. You do a lot of work around weight loss, right? So
Yes.
a lot of people who come to you initially, that's why they come, and that's really you go deeper. And how is weight loss connected to the nervous system or your weight?
Yes. Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yes. And you're so right. People come in with this, I'm struggling with my weight. But as we know, the work is about so much more than that. So I think I'll try to be succinct with it. But I find that many people are, we'll call it playing out their internal relationship with themselves and with food in their external body, in the physical body. And what I mean by that is our relationship with food is often tangled up with food as a coping mechanism, soothing mechanism, dissociative mechanism, numbing mechanism. It was tangled up somewhere along the line. Sometimes the stories can be very traumatic. I have heard some of the most horrendous stories in my life working with people who are struggling with weight. And sometimes the stories can be habitual and just, things that happened through life and life stressors. But we turn to food as a way to soothe or cope or escape from our lives. And that gets really tangled up in our neural wiring and our patterns and our habits. And it gets difficult to untangle after it gets tangled up in there. And so something I'm really passionate about is helping people untangle that neural wiring so that they can have a totally different relationship with food, which then shows up in their physical form as a different way to relating to themselves, their nervous system, and how they flow through life.
Wow. Okay. So I'm curious. So when you have people going through a program and you do one-on-one work, right?
I
So,
actually don't do one-on-one anymore, but yes, it's all in group work. Yeah.
so like, where do you start the process and how do you work with people?
Everybody starts in the nervous system. So that is, the process that I built. I didn't actually set out to build a methodology, but it turned into one sort of organically over time. Everyone starts in the nervous system. That's a foundational piece because if you can't understand how your nervous system is reacting to your environment, then it's going to control you versus the other way around. So everyone starts in the nervous system. Then we work through how the nervous system informs our beliefs about ourselves, our beliefs, our identity, our thoughts. And until we work on the foundation of the nervous system, we can't really understand how it's informing our beliefs, identity, our thoughts. Then we work on how beliefs and identity shape our behaviors, our actions, who we are through the world. And we work on changing our beliefs and identity. And we work on changing our behaviors. The problem with most people who are working through weight loss is that they start what I call at the top of the pyramid. They start with their diet and exercise. Okay, I got to lose weight. I got to change my diet and exercise. But that's actually backwards. Paradoxically, it's backwards. Our behaviors around diet and exercise come as a result of our habits, our beliefs, our nervous system state. And so if we want to change those, we can't start at the top. We got to start at the bottom where they originate. And so I walk people through a process of what that looks like and how to go through that.
Amazing.
It's good. It's
Yeah.
good stuff. It's rewarding stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, and we talked about this, and I know this just as well as you do that, okay, people think that the problem is the weight loss,
Yeah.
and that's just a symptom. So we need to do the deeper work.
Exactly.
Oh, wow,
Exactly.
Eliza. So this has been so interesting, and I hope you can come back
I would love
on the
to.
show another day so we can dig even further
Yeah.
into nervous system work and get some
Do it.
more tools. And oh, my puppy is awake.
Oh,
Speaking about
yay.
regulating nervous
Yep.
systems,
Yes. Animals,
pets.
incredible
Yeah.
for that. Hello,
Wow.
puppy.
Yeah. So I cuddle with her as much as I can to get, all oxytocin and
Yes.
yeah, it just
All the
feels good.
things.
And I watch her and she's following us around all over the house. And I realized that it's because it makes her feel good, right?
Yeah.
When we cuddle with her, when she's close to us.
Yes.
So she intuitively just wants more of those
That's right.
happy hormones.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Pets, animals are so because they live from their nervous system. That's how they
yeah.
live. They don't have they don't have the brain going, well, I wonder if that's a belief. Nope. They just nervous system to nervous system. Ooh, that feels good. Well, I want more of it. Keep doing that, right?
Yeah.
They're so good for us in that way.
So fascinating. Okay, she's restless, and I'm aware that you have to go as well. So, you know, I'll bring you back on the show
This is
another day
amazing.
so we
Let's do it.
can dig into the nervous system. I know
Yeah.
all the listeners love this. This is just, what we all struggle with, right?
Yeah, it's just
Yeah.
the human condition is that's what I like to tell people. It's just being human. It's not there's something wrong with us or I suffer from this or I need help with it's everybody. It's just being a human. We have nervous systems. This is how they work.
If you're interested in learning more about how your brain works, how your subconscious works, and how you can reprogram all that old emotional stress, click subscribe and follow for more.